You know, one of the odd things that's happened to me about getting back into video games is I'm having to get used to video games breaking me emotionally. That didn't happen so much back when I was gaming more. I'm sorry, I never cried at Aerith, Final Fantasy VII. I was surprised I didn't cry. I did, however, cry playing Inmost. So this one is a metroidvania-esque game. There's a little bit more to it than that. I think that's the simplest way to present it, though. You are dealing primarily with a large map that you are getting and filling out more of. There's backtracking to find stuff or to open up areas that you had seen before but couldn't access because you were missing an ability or an item or what have you. And it progresses in that manner. It is pixel art, and it is kind of amazing to me. So let me first point out a couple of things. The first is that while I am getting back into gaming, this, for people who have been playing the indie-esque Metroidvania games that have been coming out over the last frickin' decade or so, this might not feel like it has that much new to offer. I'll freely admit that. But for me, who has played a handful of pretty good ones, including Hollow Knight, which was great, but I can't remember if I did a review on that. I'm gonna have to check that. But the thing with this is, it's not that it has the most expansive map or the most amazing abilities. This one is about atmosphere, mood, and game feel. And I want to emphasize game feel a lot on this, because one of the things that happens is you play, I think, technically a total of 4 characters, but you basically switch between 3 main ones, and they are on different maps doing their own things. You switch between sort of your primary character, who I think is generally referred to as the Wanderer by the developer. He's never called that in game, I don't think. There's the Knight, who is pretty much the only one with any combat ability, and then there is a small child. And the game feel of each of these is drastically different. You spend the most time playing the Wanderer, and he has a fairly standard set of abilities. You know, he can jump, he can roll, but he has no attack abilities, and even his jump isn't quite as far as you might expect. And if he gets pinned by creatures, he's going to go down quickly. The Knight can take on enemies, but he's also weighed down by his armor. He can't jump. He does have a grapple, but that can't latch onto everything. And then there's the child, who can do almost nothing. The jump is it's just this little hop. It can't get her up onto anything. She can climb up on things, but that means you have to assemble like boxes for her to climb up on. And in some of these cases, especially, these characters can feel painfully slow, but not in a frustrating gameplay sense, in a, oh my God, with what's going on right now, I'm so terrified because you're not moving fast enough. And I mean terrified. I had actually several, but definitely one of the most anxiety-inducing, tension-filled scenes I have ever dealt with in a game. And it was playing as the child trying to sneak past a parent who they have a not great relationship with. I don't think I've ever been more tense in a game. I was terrified, because this does an excellent job of evoking that, when you play as the child, evoking that sense of helplessness. You do not feel like you can run, jump. You can't jump. Like, you truly feel powerless as this child, and it makes something so basic really tense. The plot on this is difficult to explain. That said, I feel like it worked perfectly for me. Story-wise, it's dark. It is dark. I don't like precisely what is sort of too dark for you. Kind of varies by person. This, for me, it hit the edge of like, it was real close to being too dark for me. It didn't quite cross that line. It didn't quite cross into like Black Mirror White Christmas territory. It got close though, in terms of almost hitting my limits, but it didn't quite get there, which is part of why it going right up to the edge but not going over it. Oh boy. And especially at some of the points at which it changes who you're playing as. Like I'm trying not to spoil too much, but like as I came to understand the knight better, I hated playing as him. Not because he didn't control well, but because I hated that as the player, I had to help him do what it was he was doing. And I didn't want to. And it made me hate him so much. And that felt very intentional. All of this feels incredibly intentionally designed. All of the limitations. This does a really good balance, especially when you're playing the Wanderer, that when there is a threat coming at you, like you may die a few times, but there's also a decent chance that even on the first time you encounter it, you will escape just by the skin of your teeth. And any game that can pull off that balance where you're not dying over and over and over again to the point where your character death means nothing, but you also feel consistently threatened so that it's still tense, that is a hard balance to hit. So in regards to the story, it is a mix of realistic and heavily metaphorical storytelling. Exactly how the different stories you are seeing, and I even mentioned there is a fourth character you play as, but that's not a lot and it's a little complicated. But the ways in which these people interconnect is something that you will discover as it goes along, but also is not laid out 100%. This I'm probably going to get slightly spoilerish here, but I don't think too much. This is not too difficult to sort this fairly early on, given that, say, the child sequences are very realistic, and the Wanderer is more fantastical, and the Knight is even more so. So, if anything I've said intrigued you, give it a go. I thought it was great, but I don't consider this to be a massive, massive spoiler. So maybe hang around. There is very clearly an interplay of the metaphorical, fantastical journey where the things that you encounter and the story that you are unraveling is serving as a fantastical allegory to some real life stuff going on. And, which stories seem far more grounded in a very realistic sense, and which ones are set in a fantasy realm, give you an idea of, where's the reality, where's the metaphor. Now, if you are a lore hound, or if you're a theorist, and if you're the kind of person who really wants to know what everything means and how everything maps on from X to Y, that may actually ultimately end up frustrating you. Because while I feel I have a very strong sense of what connects to what tonally, logistically, I'm not sure I could 100% map out for you the way all of these real-world elements map onto all of the fantastical elements. There are some real-world elements that don't appear to have a comparison in the fantastical, and there's some things in the fantastical that map, but not 100% cleanly. And the reason I'm bringing this up is after I finished it, I did check some of the reviews and like community opinions on it. And for some people, it does seem like not being able to map out 100% X means Y, and we're definitely positive about that, had some people frustrated. It didn't frustrate me because emotionally it nailed every aspect of this as far as I'm concerned. But if you're into logistical, tying up all loose ends and not leaving metaphors dangling, this could end up frustrating you. For me, that did not detract from this game at all. This was not that long a playthrough. It's like 5 hours-ish. But it was an emotionally intense game. And I found it to be a very rewarding one. And it is one where if you've seen this, review, you now kind of have a heads up. But as you play it and you realize just how dark it's going to get, because like for instance, there are little crystals that you find that basically you turn in for more lore and more story information. They are referred to as pain. And you turn in pain, you uncover pain to find out more about what's going on. That's the tone of this thing. So if you're not up for something that heavy, like I expected, when I first went in, I expected it to be a bit on the melancholic side. It's a lot darker than just melancholic. It's heavy. It's good though. It's really good. So if you are into Metroidvanias and you want to try something that uses game feel to deliberately make different characters feel very differently, but very rarely make you feel powerful, pretty much never, this is a really well done piece using the actual gameplay and the game feel as a core storytelling element. I think from that perspective, it's great. And the storytelling itself, I thought was really effective. Inmost. Have you played this? What did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments and let's talk about it. Patreon's what pays the bills and does enable me to be able to not only buy these games, but take the time during Wednesdays and Fridays to stream them on Twitch. A link for that down in the description, plus links for other things that I do as well. Don't worry too much about it, though. The likes, the shares, subscribes, they all help me out. But what I really want you to do is I want you to just take a relaxed attitude, especially after a game like this. Just relax and come on back next time you need a break. End of the video, so I gotta shout out my top patrons. Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfulla, Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Oliver B., Angus Bjarnason, Melinda Walters, Imudelki, The Oath of Boyd, Katoria, Toy Lowly, Becky Sparks, Fernambulax the Poodle, Zach, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperl, Tim Price, Adam R.D.L. Taylor, Shayla Gourlay, and Brendan LaRose. Thanks for your support. If you want to hear me probably mispronounce your name as well, check out the rewards on the Patreon. How you doing there?